to pretty much transform it according to the business requirement, and then push it into various environments, various destination. Probably you could do it into a data warehouse, which could be in facts and dimension tables, or you could just send it to an Excel file and ship it up with an FTP server or something like that, or post something onto a website. Anything could be done.
Okay.
Initially, it was a tool for ETL, more like an extract, transform, and load. But later on, as it evolved into a tool which can also do a lot of process automation, and in those lines. Okay. So, but in a general real-time world, people do still use it for loading data warehouses and doing different operations and all. So pretty much about all those performance things and all would be happening in SSIS. So over this couple of weeks, over the next week, we'll go through the SSIS. Majorly, when you talk about SSIS, it's more like a data flow components versus control flow components. There are a bunch of them. In each of those categories, you would see anywhere from 20 to 25 components. So overall, about 40 to 50 components. If you are aware of all those 40 50 components with an advanced properties and all, then you should be good. It's pretty much a GUI tool, so you don't really have to do anything much, but you just have to know how would you use that component, or when would you use any of those components. Okay. So that's a basic and revolving thing around the exercise. So to start with, basically you would get an data tools, and that is what a Visual Studio template for building SSIS, SSRS, and SSIS cubes and all those things. For that, you would just type SSDT on Google. Then it would direct you to a Microsoft site where you could download an SSDT for Visual Studio 2015 or 2017, either of your choice. Okay, so for my purposes, I have downloaded a 2015 shell. So this on a basis which would start like an what do you call a Visual Studio out shell. Okay, whereas if you move on to the files and open a new project or create a new project, that's when your business intelligence template would come up. Okay, this is all the business intelligence tools we would use. So in this particular business intelligence folder, I'm pretty much talking about integration service. Basically, there are two types of projects in the integration service itself, which is one of them is an import wizard, and the other one is more like an development. You would use an import wizard when you have to grab certain packages from an external server, which is stored on an external server, and you want to grab those packages in your development environment to modify them or do anything of those format, then you would use an service import project wizard and thing. Okay. So whereas a service project is pretty much a simple one where you can start developing your stuff and all. So to start with, let's use that one. Okay. I'll name my project as a project 1. Okay. Or I could say just a training or SSIS itself. Okay, so this is my project name. Okay, this is the location where it would go and sit. Okay, okay, that's good. So you could choose this option, create a directory of solution or not. Okay, in latest version 2017 and all, you would have a GitHub or some repository linking up even up here. Okay, that's one of those options, but you don't really have to do it. Okay. So click OK, and then you would see this new screen popping up. Okay, just a get started screen. You don't really have to do anything with this one. So I'll just uncheck it. Okay, this is the main screen. So SSIS toolbox, if you don't see it, let's say if I accidentally closed it and you don't see it in left side auto hide float panels, where you could find it is here. Okay, click on this one, it'll reappear. Okay, this icon right here. Okay, so that's number one. Number two is package itself. Number three, Solution Explorer. Solution Explorer is a place where your solution is residing. Let's say if I close this package one, if I close this everything off, then here is your initial starting point. You created SSIS training package, training project, and your project is here.
Okay.
Okay, this is your project. So once you open it, you would usually see your packages in this particular folder, and other parts like let's say you built a custom solution or a custom C# component or a DLLs that which you want to include in there. You could add it up here. Okay, certain files, images, certain things like a templates and all. If something is need to be added here, you would be able to add it. Okay, to start with, here is where when you create a package, you will get a raw package. This is what it would look like. Okay, when you double click on your project, basically you would see five panels, five tabs, you can say. That is control flow, data flow, parameters, event handlers, and package explorer. Okay, each of it has its own way of defining package and seeing what is happening on when it executes and all. So as I told you before, even the first lines of the ETL SSIS thing, as I said, this control flow is more like a the component inside the control flow are pretty much like controlling the package execution itself. Let's say if you want to send an email after data is transferred from one particular table to another particular table, you want to send out an email. That could be done using control flow components. Let's say you want to send out an message via pager, or you want to send a file to some email account or something like that, or send email or anything on in the you want to send an FTP file. You could invoke a web service, any of those things that which can communicate as well as do an external task could be done within control flow elements. Okay, where you can, in simple terms, you could call it as like an controlling of the package. Okay, whereas a data flow, which is the second tab, which can be called from here. You drag a data flow component, you drop it onto the control flow, and when you double click it, it will navigate into a data flow tab. Okay, you could have as many as data flow tasks in here. So let's say if I drag and drop 3 data flow tasks, double click it, I moved into data flow tab, right? In the drop down, I have different data flow transformations. So that means from here, I'm navigating to here, and then from here to here using this drop down option. Okay, that's about the data flow. Inside the data flow, it's pretty much like source, transformations, and destination. Those are the 3 basic parts inside a data flow task. Okay. So as I said before, you could grab data from any different sources. Let me drag it down here. You could see some of the available sources up here, right? So you could talk to an ADO.NET source, or you could talk to an Excel source, or you could talk to a flat file. ODBC would be anything Access, or any other cross-platform. Could be NetEase or data warehouse of some kind of. You can use ODBC to connect to a Java server or an application or anything like that. You know, ODBC is just something like a pipeline. You connect from one server to another server using that particular pipeline. ODBC is pretty much like an open source one, whereas OLEDB is Oracle. More like a SQL server driven one. Okay, more of Microsoft driven one. Okay, raw file format is pretty much only available in SSIS. Okay, what happens in here is it writes out machine level information into a file, which humans cannot read it, but it's easy for a machine to understand, right? So that could be one of the source format if you want to transfer data, which is even our alphabets and all, it has to convert it to a machine level language to understand, right? So that without having the conversion part, it will handle all those things. XML is another type of source. Okay, that's about the sources. You will have similar destinations too. Excel, flat file, ODBC, OLEDP, raw file, SQL Server itself has a destination. Those could be other destinations, like if you use OLEDP and ODBC, you could talk to anything in the world. Okay, so those are the destinations. Whereas as I said, transformations is anything that which you could do to data. Let's say you got a table full of data and you want to count the information based on age group. You could use an aggregator transformation, or you based on their height, you want to separate everybody. Let's say you want to say if anybody who is greater than 5'10", you want to call them large, and if anybody who is less than 5 feet, you want to call them small. You could use a conditional split. Based on the condition, it will split the data into 3 different result sets. So this itself will help you. Those components would let you help you in achieving your business goal. Pretty much what you want to do with the data. You want to get an let's say you get a string of 10 characters and you want to only grab three characters in between of those 10. You could use a substring or something called a derived column or certain things, and you could use it. So every single transformation here has certain uses. Okay, so we'll over the next period of this week, we'll go through each of those components and see what exactly each of those components would be helpful to you, how helpful to you in a real-time world. Okay, so that's about it. Okay, other than that, there is another thing which is called parameters. That's the third tab in the package. Parameters is something which will help you configuring of this package. Let's say you want to without opening the package in a Visual Studio, you want to send an table name to the package where it has to grab the data and where it has to push the data. Okay, you could parameterize it, just like in our store procedures, where you could send information from an execution way to the store procedure so that it executes those values, right? We saw it in a store procedure example. So that's a similar way where you could define multiple variables as parameters, and you could supply them to the SSIS packages in certain way, as where it can evaluate them and execute them while it is running itself. Okay, so that's about the parameters. Whereas event handlers are certain things. Let's say you have this 3 data flow task, right? Data flow task and data flow task 1 and data flow task 2. These are the 3 components which are dragged and dropped on a control flow. Let's say if certain event happens on this data flow task on error, I would say send email to Sandeep. I would on error, I would send an email to Sandeep. I could configure it. At the same time, I even have an every task level information here, so that on an error, on an uncertain event, like pre-execution, post-execution value, on progress, you want to keep track of timing and all, how much time it took in a progress window. You could use all those components in here.
Okay.
More of when certain event hacker happens, how do you want to react is what this event handler would do. Okay, whereas package explorer is something like in here from the control flow and data flow, it is like more like a drilling down, right? You click onto this, then you go into the data flow task, and you want to see what other component is connected. Let's say this is connected to this one. Now, if you want to navigate back, you have to get back to control flow and then double click on this one, right? Which is again a tedious task of understanding how the things are moving back and forth. Right? In order to solve that, they got this package explorer tab. What will happen is you'll have everything here. You'll see, okay, in the executables there is 3 data flow tasks inside the control flow, and inside each data flow task, these are the components it had. These are the event handlings that is happening. These are the variables it has been declared. So that information was readily available, but it's more like not a graphical way, but it's a small list oriented way, right? So you could
Okay.
see the information from here too. So that's
Okay.
again, wow, more information available in this way. Okay. Um,
Okay.
so that when you do execute certain packages, let's say if you want to execute this particular package, there would be something called a progress window that would be available for you. Let's say it is building it up. This is building for the first time, so let wait for a minute or two. Okay, so it's currently building, right? So you see this progress tab appearing. So in this progress bar, it is pretty much reporting to you live what's happening in each of those execution flow tasks, right? So in the control flow, there was a data flow task one, and it executed. It started this time and it finished at this time. That is what it is saying. So in the data flow task, this is, if you open it up, it will tell you information. So let's say you have more and more components in it. It will clearly tell you what exactly is taking time, how it is being done, and all would be recorded in here. It is more for a developer help and all. Once you move this package into a SQL Server environment, post it onto a server, you don't see this one. You won't be able to see it in a Visual Studio, but you would have logs and all. So that's a whole different story. But we'll cover it in later classes. Okay. Um, so far, whatever we spoke, do you have any questions or doubts on this aspect?
Okay.
No, you do not, right? Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna be available for sure tomorrow at 8 p.m. Um, so we'll continue our class with there because
What is the problem?